Question 18. But what about the liberating way Jesus treated women? Doesn't he explode our hierarchical traditions and open the way for women to be given access to all ministry roles? We believe the ministry of Jesus has revolutionary implications for the way sinful men and women treat each other. His care for women was frequently evident. And ought not this woman, a daughter of Abraham whom Satan bound for 18 years, be loosed from this bond? Luke chapter 13 verse 16. Everything Jesus taught and did was an attack on the pride that makes men and women belittle each other. Everything he taught and did was a summons to the humility and love that purge self-exaltation out of leadership and servility out of submission. He put man's lustful look in the category of adultery and threatened it with hell. Matthew chapter 5 verses 28 to 29. He condemned the whimsical disposing of women in divorce. Matthew chapter 19 verses 8 to 9. He called us to account for every careless word we utter. Matthew chapter 12 verse 36. He commanded that we treat each other the way we would like to be treated. Matthew chapter 7 verse 12. He said to the callous chief priests, "Prostitutes go into the kingdom of God before you." Matthew chapter 21 verse 31. He was accompanied by women. He taught women. And women bore witness to his resurrection life. Against every social custom that demeans or abuses men and women, the words of Jesus can be applied. And why do you break the commandment of God for the sake of your tradition? Matthew chapter 15 verse 3. But where does Jesus say or do anything that criticizes the order of creation in which men bear a primary responsibility to lead, protect, and sustain? Nowhere did he call this good order into question. It simply does not follow to say that, since women ministered to Jesus and learned from Jesus and ran to tell the disciples that Jesus was risen, this must mean that Jesus opposed the loving headship of husbands, or the limitation of eldership to spiritual men. We would not argue that merely because Jesus chose 12 men to be his authoritative apostles, Jesus must have favored an eldership of only men in the church. But this argument would be at least as valid as arguing that anything else Jesus did means he would oppose an eldership of all men, or the headship of husbands. The effort to show that the ministry of Jesus is part of a major biblical thrust against gender-based roles can only be sustained by assuming, rather than demonstrating, that he meant to nullify headship and submission rather than rectify them. What is clear is that Jesus radically purged leadership of pride and fear and self-exaltation, and that he also radically honored women as persons worthy of the highest respect under God.